the chief stand to facilitate Mr. Abu Bakr.
The session after lunch is always tough. You all had a good lunch. So I'm going to try and find ways to keep you awake. I'm going to share with you a few things that are generally not associated with it. Because the narrative that has been created about India was set on the 2nd of February 1835 by Macaulay in his famous minute, when he said, "A single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia." So think about it. He said, you just take one shelf of European books, and that is worth more than the literature of India and Arabia. And he said, I certainly never met with any Orientalist who ventured to maintain that the Arabic and Sanskrit poetry could be compared to the great European nations. Now he's writing this in 1835. What is interesting is that in 1791, one of the greatest poets of all time, one of the greatest poets of all time, Goethe, thank you. Sorry for the confusion. So what is ironic is that when Macaulay was questioning the poetic and other characteristics of in 1791, the great German poet, who is considered one of the greatest literatures of all time, Goethe, he encountered this Sanskrit play called Shakuntala. And he considered it to be amongst the most magnificent creations of humanity. In fact, he said, if heaven and earth were combined with one name, that would be hers, that is Shakuntala. And he said, Shakuntala is the star that wakes the night, that makes the night more agreeable than the day. In fact, we consider that to be something that he cherished throughout his life. One of the greatest literary authors of all time. So in spite of all of this, Macaulay basically denigrated the learning of the East, in particular India. And narrative basically was set that India did not produce any kind of higher learning that was worthwhile. And the seeds of this were actually so much earlier because the British did something very interesting when they came to India. That is, they founded the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal. This was founded on the 15th of January 1784. And from that time until 1818, when James Mill published his History of British India, they collected the raw data, got all the translations that they needed, and then in 1818, James Mill creates a narrative about India. Now what is that narrative? And by the way, he's a fully paid employee of the British East India Company. Right? So he's very biased. He says very clearly in the introduction of these 4 volumes called the History of British India that he does not know any Indian language. He has never been to India, but that allows him to be quote-unquote objective. Today it used to be considered laughable. But the reason why this book became so influential is because that then became the recommended textbook, not the recommended, the mandatory textbook for all the civil servants who were there sent to India, for the British East India Company, who were trained in Nilibari, which was the world's first management school. And then, at the time of the First War of Independence, or what the British called mutiny in 1857, that was disbanded, and then the training of the civil servants was handed over to Oxford University. In fact, in my college, Naval College, where I studied. And there, among other things, they engaged a young historian who was very, very famous. Later on, his name was Arnold Toynbee. So, it was a very well-calculated enterprise of indoctrinating people who were to rule India through the civil service with this particular narrative. What was this narrative? That India is poor, it is backward, it is caste-oriented, it is discriminatory or brutal towards women, it is color-conscious, it is hierarchical, and it is beyond redemption. And that the only people who will redeem it are the British in their superior European learning. And the British basically molded all the knowledge that we acquired in this project that started with the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal to further their rule. They created, as it were, the narrative, the hegemony, the mindset to rule India, to portray themselves as the superior set of individuals and to delegate. As a result, Indians have implicit, even after independence, we have not moved away from this paradigm. We have internalized a lot of these issues. Now think about one. That India did not have any kind of learning worth talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a series of slides which will share with you the history of one of the greatest innovations in human mind, that is the university. All of you are in a university, right? A university here in India. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the history of universities, which the Europeans believe started in Europe in 1088 with Bologna, but actually started in India 1800 years prior to that in Takshila. And so, if you go to the next slide, so basically there are, by the way, it wasn't just one university or two. India for 1800 years had as many as 7 universities. And each one of them was world class. And I'm going to walk you through the details of that. Now, this is a very interesting quotation about the importance of universities and how long line they are. This is Clark, who's the founder of the University of California system, one of the great university systems of the world. He basically said that about 85 institutions in the Western world were established by 1520. And 70 of them, well, these are the only 85 institutions that have survived 500 years in Europe. 17 of them are universities. Think about it. That is how important universities and how long life they are. Universities, if you create a university, if you create a company, the expected life, even if it succeeds to begin with, the expected life is about 30 years. After that, it is either sold or merged or goes out of business. A university can literally last for hundreds of years, even 1,000 years. Next slide. Now, this is the dominant European narrative. I've taken this from a 3-volume study of the history of the university we're about to read. Now, he says, university is a European institution. And he says, what is a university? It is a community of teachers and taught with certain rights, such as the principle of autonomy, the determination and realization of curricula, and the objectives of research, as well as the award of publicly recognized degrees, is a creation of medieval Europe, which is the Europe of Catholic Christianity. I'm submitting to you that this is one of the most egregiously wrong statements in all of modern scholarship. In fact, you will not find something which is so outrageously and totally wrong in every one of these researches. And what I will prove to you, I will share with you the detailed data on each one of these and many more about how all of these features were present in the Indian system and how they later influenced the rest of the world. We'll talk about that. Next slide, please. Okay, it's not as if no Europeans were aware of this. Certainly, one of the great European scholars, English scholars, Joseph Liederman, who did a seminal work on the history of China, he was aware of the fact that Indians had universities much before the Europeans. In fact, he said the Greeks never had universities, they only had academies. And he said, he mentions that when Alexander came to India, he came to Tashkent, the great university, because he wanted to meet the European scholars. This is there, not in the Indian sources. Because as far as India is concerned, Alexander was a minor footnote. He does not figure anywhere in Indian histories. But this history is recorded by the Greeks in particular. If you look at Plutarch, the Greek author Plutarch and his wives of famous people, all this is there. That Alexander came to Khajuraho for this. And he said that Hoshian, he came in 400 AD. The torch of learning had moved into this garden. So we come to the next slide. First of all, where were these universities? Right? So the first thing that you should ask yourself is where were these universities? So the university, Khajuraho that I'm talking about is that blue dot, which is currently in Pakistan. Khajuraho is a suburb of Islamabad, the country's capital. It's just like Gurgaon is to New Delhi. It's about 30 kilometers to the west of Islamabad. Now, why is Khajuraho located where it is located? The reason is that 3 great roads of the ancient world met at Khajuraho. What is today called the Grand Trunk Road, it is the National Highway number 1. It's the most important road in India. It's still called NH1. That was built 2,400 years ago by Chandragupta Maurya, and it was called Uttarakhand of the Northern Road. Where did it start? It started in Tamil, which is Haldia, near Calcutta. It goes to Calcutta, and then it passes through Varanasi, goes up to Meerut, New Delhi, Amritsar, it goes to Lahore. From there it goes to Islamabad, it goes to Khajuraho, and then it bifurcates. Iraq in one direction, Kandahar in the other. Many people are there from Afghanistan who will recognize this. And then it meets up again and then goes to Iran, to Persepolis and so on. And that then becomes the Royal Road, Persian Shahram-e-Azam. That is the Persian Royal Road. And that then connects to Mosul, Baghdad, all the way to Turkey, Ankara, and then goes to Sardis on the Greek coast. This is the route by the way Alexander come in to come to Khajuraho. So this is one. So one big road is Uttarakhand. The second big road is the Persian Royal Road, which connects to Europe. And then the third one, which goes to China, is what is called the Silk Road. This is what is the China-Pakistan economic corridor today. And that is the Seidenstrasse, as it was called in German, or the Silk Road. Right? So the 3 great roads of the ancient world met in Khajuraho, and therefore it was the global crossroads, and hence the university. All the great civilizations of the world Indian, the Chinese, the Persian, the Greek, all of them basically take Takshila and head there because of the geography. Okay? Then what happens is, I don't go into that history, but in the 5th century, there's a massive invasion of India by the White Huns. They are called, there's at least 7 different names for them, Yuchar in Chinese, Heptanites and Kidarites in Greek, and so on. But essentially there's a massive invasion. The Takshila is destroyed at that point. Right? And so then the Gupta Empire basically says a university cannot flourish in the northwest. So then they bring it to the east to Nalanda. So Nalanda is the second university that is built. And then later on there is another one, Wosy, which is near Nalanda, which is where in Gujarat, which is on the coast. Why was it built there? Because Wosy was the main trading port of India in those times. After that it becomes Surat, that was the main trading port of the Mughals. And after that, Bombay, that becomes the main trading port of British India. So these were the 3 major ports. But around 500 AD, one of these is the major trading port. And so the university, the third university built in India is in Wosy. The second is in Nalanda, which is, you see the second blue route there. And that is also along the route of the Uttarakhand, as it's called. And then later on, Vikramji, and then Jagadhar, Sumatra, Ludhavaturi are built. By the way, Jagadhar and Sumatra are in Bangladesh. I believe there are some folks from Bangladesh here. Yes. I was in your lovely country just in March to see Sumatra, and I'll talk about this in a minute. That was, in my view, the most beautiful university that ever existed, and I'll show you some pictures in a minute. So these 7 universities form the system. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. By contrast, you have to recognize what the rest of the world also has, right? The Greeks only had academies, not universities. So Plato had his academy, Aristotle had his academy, but these were small, little groups of people who just engaged in discussions. So the Greeks were given no curriculum was taught. It was basically just small discussion groups. So they were not universities. China also, they had Taisha, Nanjing, Taihak in Korea. But again, these were not full-fledged universities in any sense of the term. Most of these were individual training academies. By contrast, I also put Nalanda and Kochi. Very interestingly, you also had the University of Khajuraho in Morocco, which is very fascinating to talk about that. And then Al-Azhar in Egypt in 1972. But Takshila is 6th century BC, right? 2600 years ago. Nalanda is from the 5th century, 450 AD, around that time. One of these from the 6th century, about 530 AD, and then Vikramji was in the Jagadhar and Sumatra in the 8th century. Next slide. These are the universities in Europe. It's a big slide. I put all the universities in the first 500 years of Europe, starting with Bologna, Paris, Modena, Oxford, etc., Cambridge, University of Vincennes, and so on. So this is the list of European universities, but they come much later. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So then you have to understand why did India have universities that the rest of the world did not. Okay? One, of course, Takshila, because it was the global crossroads. But that alone should not give you a university. This is a chart from Ives Madison that he published about 20 years ago. This is the global share of world GDP. This is the world GDP share of each country, right? And the red ones are the dominant country of that particular year. Okay? So remember, for the first 1500 years, from 0 AD to 1500 AD, India is the biggest economy in the world, bigger even than China. Right? In 2000 years ago, which is when Takshila was around, it accounted for 1/3 of the global GDP. And right up until 1500, which is when China levels out, 1/4 of the world's GDP is here. Then Europe takes over. France is the biggest economy in the world in 1870. Actually, United Kingdom, sorry, not the biggest economy, but it's United Kingdom is 9.1. Then it it moves to USSR and the United States, 9.6 and 27% respectively in 1950. And then Japan and China basically start to catch up. So the red is telling you the transition, not necessarily the biggest ones. So this also tells you why the word came in India in the first 1500 years. This is again well-respected data for language science. Next slide. This is another way to look at this. Some of our physicists here, you know the concept of central gravity, right? So if I have a book, the center of gravity is here, right? I can hold it here. Similarly, you can have a center of gravity in economic activity in the world, right? So if you map all the economic activity in different places by the weights, and then find the center of gravity, you can find the center of gravity of a map also. So the center of gravity of economic activity in 1 CE, 2,000 years ago, was right next to Khajuraho. And then, as Europe becomes powerful, remember, for 1500 years it remains in the same place. And then, 1500, 1820, 1913, it steadily moves to the west, 1820 because of Europe. 1913, 1940, 1950 because of America, the chart that I showed you. And then now, it's coming back. So, by 2025, it's coming very close. So this is now, we talk about Tajikistan and so on. And then, as India and China develop even more in the next 50 years, it will come right back in touch. So this is going to become, one more time, the global economic center of the universe. Let's go to the next one. Okay, then, so I told you, global crossroads, economic activity, what is the third reason? The third reason is, contrary to what we've been taught in our schools, philosophy did not originate in Greece, it originated in India. And of course, it's one thing for Indians to say so, but I'm here taking this table directly reproduced from the book by A Comparative History of World Philosophy by Shahustan. And he basically indicates that philosophy originated in India, and the world's first philosopher was Uddavaka Aruni, the teacher of Shvetiketu and Nachiketa in the Upanishads. So he's the world's first philosopher. And then you have Jayavarman, and then you have Vedanti, and then in China you have Confucius and Mencius and others. And in Europe you have Heraclitus, Parmenides, Socrates, Democritus, etc. By the way, Democritus, 460 BC to 370 BC, actually comes to Khajuraho. And he's the person who found the atomic theory in Greece. Right? So Democritus, by the way, along with Alexander, came to India. And then of course later on you have Nagarjuna, Hassan the Possible, and others. But the point is that philosophy, and what is philosophy? Philosophy is asking why. The first people of the world who ask why, which later on becomes a scientific method, that actually happens. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the misconceptions that people have is that well, India is mystic, it does not have rationality, the Greeks are all rational, they don't have mysticism. Both are false. India, in fact, had one of the most well-developed, in fact, perhaps the most well-developed rational tradition of any civilization in the world. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this book by Duke University historian called The Shape of Ancient Thought. I think it's a book in 30 chapters. What he does is that he takes every aspect of rationality that you find in the West, and he documents a parallel in tradition, which in most cases is older than in Europe. So it's a myth to say that India did not have rationality. And similarly, it's a myth to say that the Greeks did not have mysticism. See, there's another tragedy that has befallen Europe, which is the Greeks absolutely had mystical traditions. They meditated. And if you read classical Greek, as I would like to do, you find word after word for meditation experiences. That you find in the works of Socrates, in Plato's Republic, and elsewhere. And we have this translation. Why? Because remember, Greek learning did not stay with the Greeks. Greeks lost Greek learning, Europe lost it. So who maintained it? It was two groups of people. It was the Arabs who maintained it, and a large number of Armenians and Arabs basically maintained the classical Greek scholarship very often in Arabic translations. And these were then retranslated into Europe until they found the manuscripts and went to the original documents. But that learning was kept about by the Arabs. And so essentially what happened is that Europe has this tradition of both meditation and knowledge, but the tradition of meditation is lost. Knowledge can be recovered by reading the text, but you cannot recover meditation just by looking at the texts on books. You need living traditional masters. And what we have done, in my view, perhaps the finest intellectual that France has produced in the last 50 years, Pierre Khajuraho wrote several books in French where he talks about the meditative experiences of the Greeks, of Socrates, of Plato, of Aristotle, of Marcus Aurelius, because Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditation to Greek, even though he was a Roman emperor. So all that is there. So next slide, please. Okay, so here I'm going to give you a summary of my forthcoming book and papers and all of that. So every single one of the innovations that, remember I showed you that original slide, what a Reed saying in the university mentioned, it has this, and this. Well, every one of those this, and this is there, including many more. So all of these things which define a modern university basically come into the Indian system at different points in time. First of all, the definition of university is that all subjects must be taught, right? So I will share with you the details, but I will explain each one of these. All subjects are taught, it must be residential. Real transformation only happens when you are in residence. It must be global. It must allow for different religious traditions to come in, and they should be on an equal footing. Right? That is what I mean by secular. That you do not distinguish between religions for the purpose of intellectual inquiry. And you critique everything. Peer review, basics of science, financial assistance, higher education has always been subsidized. Degrees, that they should have a library, that there should be academic freedom, admission standards, public funding, endowments, competing centers, autonomy, corporate form, centralized university, and women's education. Next slide. Okay, so let's, by the way, the 18 innovations that I showed were in India. They borrow some of these, reinvents some more, then adds 3 more that you have on the top. Exports it to America. America takes these 21 innovations, adds 3 more, and that's, in my view, the great 24 innovations that make a great modern university. I don't go into these. We can talk about this over tea, or you can ask me questions. Let's go to the next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So this also gives you a sense of which of these universities, the